Well. Thank you, Mr. Dan, for that beautiful reading of the word of the Lord. And it is good to be with you all. My name's Matt. For those that don't know me, I'm the pastor. I'm the family's pastor here at Lighthouse. And man, what you'll notice, so this is my third time preaching on this stage, and what you'll notice is that this is by far the quietest time that I've preached on stage. And the last two times, the kids have been in, and it's been a joyous noise. So you're gonna have to give me something as we're going to make me feel more at home. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Good to be here, man. I'm noticing, I would be remiss, I'm noticing Broncos jerseys around the room, and I would be remiss not to say, go Cowboys. And so, man, glad that you're all here. Just snuck that in. What did I say? Yeah. Very good. Man, like I said, pleased to be with you. We, man, here at Lighthouse Church exists that we might shine the light of the gospel so that we can make disciples, all for the glory of God, right? And man, I'm glad that you are here. If it's your first time with us, thank you for being here. There we are. Hey, guys. Awesome. If it's your first time with us, listen, it was once all of our first times. And so I want to say, man, it can be intimidating, right? It can be nerve-wracking coming into a church for the first time, and you are safe here. And this is a place that you can call home. This is a place that, like I said, we all call home, and it's because God's Spirit is upon this place. Not because of anything that we are doing here, not because we are special here, but because we submit to the purpose of the Lord our God, right? So, Esther chapter 3 is where we are. If you haven't turned there in your Bible already, go ahead and do that. And I figured what a good way to start us off would be is if I mansplain childbirth to you all. So that's kind of where we'll be. My wife is a labor and delivery nurse. She's cringing at me right now going, please don't do this. I've gotten permission to say what I'm about to say. And so, man, some of you in the room have delivered children with my wife, and man, she's an incredible lady, and shout out to you. But childbirth is this, or this is what happens oftentimes when women come to deliver a baby at the hospital. Bear with me here. They have what is called a birth plan. A birth plan, right? Have you heard of these things called birth plans? Okay, now here's the deal with birth plans. Oftentimes, they will have a list of preferences, right? They want to come in and they want to use this medication, and they want to deliver in this position, and they want to make sure that the father of the child is in the waiting room whenever they deliver, so that he's not, coaching them wrong, right? And all of these things, and oftentimes those lists, that birth plan has really good things on it, right? Research backed. The doctor has recommended these things. They are good plans, okay? And yet, what happens sometimes is that, and if you have been there, that your birth plan doesn't always align with your birth story, right? Your birth plan doesn't always align with your birth story. I'm seeing some moms nodding their heads. And that can be very disappointing, right? And you get a lot of patients that are disappointed because their plans didn't actually come to fruition. But here's the reality, and this is, I believe, what will kind of take us into our time together this morning, is that when you are in a hospital and when you are working with medical professionals, they are working with a purpose, and you are operating on plans, right? And I believe that that will preach to us this morning that oftentimes we go through this life with plans without consulting what God's purpose is. Okay. So we're in Esther chapter 3. That's where we are. And we got a new character today. So Esther chapter 3, this is, if you were watching this as a movie, if you were reading this as a novel, chapter 3 is where we're going to start to get some rising conflict, right? Story's getting really good here. Now, man, be amazed by the stories in this book, right? Like these are not like fake stories. This actually happened, right? And this is well documented history. And so be amazed by the story. And here's what we have. We have this character Haman. Now, Haman, the very first introduction we get from Haman is that he is Haman, an Agagite. An Agagite. Now, most of you in this room are not responding to me calling Haman an Agagite the same way that Jewish people would respond to Haman being called an Agagite. Let me give you some history. Haman, the Agagite, comes from a line of Agagite people who come from King Agag. King Agag, right? King Agag was an Amalekite, and in Exodus, we are told that the Amalekite people are going to be at war with the Lord from generation to generation. You see, Haman is very squarely in the villain category for the Jewish people. Okay? For the Jewish people, Haman is not, as a matter of fact, let me give you even more. The Jewish people still celebrate a festival called the Festival of Purim. And you heard the word pure or pur being mentioned in the scripture. It's the casting of lots. And so the Jewish people, they celebrate the Festival of Purim. And part of that celebration is the reading of the book of Esther. It's a celebration to commemorate God delivering the Jewish people through the casting of lots and their deliverance from Haman, King Xerxes, and the Persian Empire. But what's really fascinating about this festival is that when the book is read and Haman's name is mentioned, what you're supposed to do is jeer and boo really loudly. The Jewish people, even to this day, do not like Haman, okay? And so he was an Agagite. He was an Agagite. What we're going to do this morning is we're going to unpack this story from the perspective of all three of our characters. So we've got Haman the Agagite. We've got Mordecai, who we have met already, man, one of the protagonists of the book of Esther, Esther's uncle. And then we'll also talk about King Xerxes. Now, I call him King Xerxes. That's the translation that I grew up on. It's also a lot easier to pronounce that, if I'm being honest with you. And so just know those are the same character, King Xerxes and King Ahasuerus. Exactly. So King Xerxes is what we're going to be calling him this morning. Just know he's the same character. Okay? Cool. So we'll start with Haman. Boo, right? Haman, there it is, thank you, is making plans. As a matter of fact, all of our characters are making their own plans, okay? And the way that Haman is planning is that he is planning from a place of pride. If you remember in the story, his plan is that he is going to command, and matter of fact, pass an edict or a decree that people must bow to him and pay honor to him, okay? He has a my way approach of planning. Just like many of us, sometimes in our lives, have a my way approach to how we plan our lives. And I put it this way, that his pride is guiding his planning. And like I said, many of us do the same thing. When we plan for our lives, it's me. I'm the center. I'm the main character, right? I'm the one that all these plans run through. And so we do the same thing that Haman does. And we look to the character of our heart to see, man, are we planning from a place of pride? I'll give you some examples. Here's how you might know that you are. If you are leaving your work, if you are leaving leaving conversations in your marriage and going, I didn't get what I deserved in that. That's not really what was due unto me. I feel like I have given more to this job. I feel like I have given more to this marriage than what I'm getting in return. Then you very well may be planning your life from a place of pride. And here's the problem with doing that. That when you do that, you are placing yourself as the person in control of your life. And we know that God is in control, right? We know that God is the one that is in control, the one that we submit our lives to. And so Haman has this interaction with Mordecai where Mordecai won't give him the honor that he feels he deserves, the honor that he feels is warranted and due unto him, and he is enraged. He is enraged. It's the same way that like when I'm driving down the street and the car next to me doesn't give me the honor that I feel like I deserve. Man, if I am operating from a place of pride, chances are I'm going to get very mad about that interaction, right? And I do, if I'm being honest with you. We've got to remember that God is our center. Side note also, Haman believes that his position, that the place that he is operating from, the second in command, the vice president, if you will, is all that warrants his honor. That because of his position, honor is due unto him. And let me give you a word of warning, friends. Your position does not garner you honor. It doesn't garner you respect. What garners you respect and honor is living honorably, is living respectably, right? Okay? And so when people don't give you the honor that you feel you deserve, not all the time, but many times, look to how you are living. Right? So Haman hatches a plan. He goes, I'm infuriated by this. And not only am I so mad that I want to end Mordecai's life, but I actually want to end the life of all of the Jewish people, all of Mordecai's people, right? Haman, boo, is not being kind. And so he goes to the king and he's like telling them that the Jewish people are not a good fit for the kingdom, that they probably need to go, that they are following their own rules and not the rules of the Persian Empire. And King Xerxes is like, sure, do whatever you got to do with them. Now, here is where God intervenes. Here's where God intervenes. Because what Haman doesn't realize is that when a human being, when the world gives permission for God's people to be under attack, that is never greater than God's protection for his people. And so God protects his people. How does he do that? Well, Haman casts lots. Essentially, this is rolling a dice. He's going, this dice is going to tell me when I'm going to kill all the Jewish people, and he rolls the dice. And the way that God intervenes, the way that we believe that God intervenes, and the way that the Jewish people celebrate that God intervened for them is that the last month possible is the month that it lands on. God's timing saves the Jewish people, and they get a little bit of time to be able to kind of continue this fight. Okay? A little bit of time to be able to continue this fight. And God intervenes for us as well, right? How many times do we look back on our experience and go, man, thank God that his timing was greater than mine, right? Thank God that his timing was greater than mine. I remember back whenever we moved to this area, right? Around that summer, we bought a house in Harvey Park. We're 4-minute drive down the road. This building becomes the building where Lighthouse is meeting, and all of a sudden, man, my life gets really small. My circle gets really small. And thank God for that, because at that time, I was looking at going to a different job. We were going to be moving to a school in Montbello, and Jess's work is right in that area as well. And so likely we would have moved and then had to find a new church. I believe that man, you lift up and you bolster your neighborhood church. And so we would have at that time probably found a new place, and yet God's timing brings us here and brings me to this position, which, man, I thank God for every day. And I'm blessed to be with you all. So God's timing is better than our own. The book of Proverbs puts it this way, and we'll put a bow on Haman. The lot is cast into the lap. In other words, we tend to have this belief that the world is random, that that the timing is kind of at the mercy of coincidence, right? But it's every decision is from the Lord. So in other words, let me tell you this, and let me encourage you with this word, friends. Your life is not happening in a random coincidence of events. God is with you during every moment, every decision of your life. And he's leading and he's guiding and he's working behind the scenes, right? This book and this sermon series, we're talking about the unseen God. Yes, he's unseen, but he's certainly not unheard. He's certainly not unheard. Let's talk about Mordecai. Mordecai is one of our protagonists. He's one of the good guys. We don't boo Mordecai, and yet we know, and Pastor Miguel has mentioned this the last several weeks, that Mordecai is on this journey of faithlessness to faithfulness, right? And we're still early in his story. Chapter 3, Mordecai's still learning some things, right? He's not fully there yet, all right? And we'll get there, and we'll get to his story, and make sure you're coming each week so that you hear the next part. Also, man, you can read ahead. That's another thing you could do, all right? But Mordecai is on this journey. And so part of that journey is that, man, his planning is going to come from a place of disobedience. Okay, and many of us do this one as well. We go, man, I don't have particularly strong plans for my life, but I know that I'm not going to follow X, Y, and Z. I know that I'm not going to honor X, Y, and Z with my life. Right? I know that I'm not going to follow this Christian leader. I know that I'm not going to fall into this trap and this trap. And so we plan our lives from a place of disobedience. Our plans are just that we're not going to do this, this, and this. And so that's what Mordecai does. Let's check out his story. This is his plan. Refuse honor to Haman. That's kind of about as far as he gets. Refuse honor to Haman. All right? And so he decides, and I'm not going to bow to him. I'm not going to pay homage to him. And I want to talk about 3 reasons why that might be. Because in the text, we're not told exactly why it is that Mordecai is not honoring Haman, right? We get a little bit where it's like he says, I'm a Jew, and so I'm not going to honor him in that way. But I believe that there's probably much more going on that leads him to this decision. And so 3 reasons, man, and I think these reasons talk to our own experience in life as well. Well, the first is this. Haman was an Agagite, a known enemy of the Jews. There are people in our lives that because of who we are, because of our identity, whether that be followers of Christ, right, are going to be against us for the sheer fact that we are a different people group. And so Haman may have refused honor for that reason. The second is this. There is evidence to suggest that Haman on his garments was wearing idols, that he had like pagan idols on his robe, things like that. And so when Mordecai says, I'm not a Jew, what he's saying is, I'm not going to engage in idolatry. And really what was happening in the Persian Empire at the time is that you were supposed to assimilate to their cultural norms. Right? You were supposed to assimilate to their cultural norms. And if you hear me saying that right now, you know that this is something that applies to us today. Because we live in a world that wants us to assimilate to some cultural norms that we know aren't for us. And so that may have been a reason that Haman refuses honor. The third is that, man, Haman is placed in this position of honor, right? Second in command. And if we go back to chapter 2, we know that Mordecai had just saved the king's life. He makes this assassination plot known to the king through Esther, who then gives him the credit. And we see in the history, in the recorded history, that Mordecai, that was Mordecai's actions, but that Mordecai actually never received the customary reward for his service to the king, right? And there are many of us that experience life and go, man, I've done all these things for God, and I have never received any credit for it. I've done all these things. I spend all my time at the church. I lead this ministry and this ministry. I've served in this way. And yet, where's my honor? And so now, all of a sudden, when someone else starts to get honor, you go, well, I'm not going to honor them because apparently no one can give me any honor, right? Now, we got to serve this kingdom. We got to serve God in the same way that Jesus did, where he didn't receive any credit. As a matter of fact, not only did he not receive credit, he received a death sentence for his service, right? And so here's the deal, man. All of these are viable reasons why we might refuse honor. But what we don't see is Mordecai ever consulting with God about this. We know that Esther is a book where God's name is never mentioned. We are calling this sermon series The Unseen God. His name is never mentioned. And I think that, man, if you read Esther 3, right about after verse 6, verse 7, I bet you something could have fit in about how Mordecai prayed to God. But we don't see that. I bet you something could have fit in really nicely about how Mordecai consulted with his Lord about what to do next. But we don't see that. So yes, Mordecai is our protagonist. Yes, he's the good guy. We're not booing Mordecai. But at the same time, man, we go into these battles for honor without ever speaking to God. And we go into these battles as a lone wolf going, man, I think I can probably fight this on my own. I got one or two other dudes that think that this is also wrong, and so we'll go fight this together. And yet no one stopped to bend a knee and pray. No one stopped and asked, hey, is this something that we should be pursuing? Man, as Christians, we got a lot of battles to fight, but we got to be wise about which ones we fight and how we fight them, all right? Because don't forget, man, we have battles to fight, but we also have souls to win. Okay? And so Mordecai, he goes on this Lone Ranger approach and brings everyone into danger. His whole people, right? Not because Mordecai's not going to pay for this decision with his own life. He's going to pay for this decision with the lives of all his people. So again, I say to you, use wisdom when you stand against the corrupt powers of this world. Don't go at it alone, all right? When we take a stand, we must do so with the full armor of God. Ephesians 6:13 says it this way, that is how we are able to withstand evil. The only way that we are able to withstand evil is with the full armor of God. We're not going unarmored and expecting to win a battle. Matter of fact, when you go in unarmored, expect to lose. So suit up and seek wise counsel. Seek wise counsel. Man, we live this life in community. You think Mordecai talked to everyone and was like, hey, I'm going to not stand to Haman. Y'all all good with that? Someone would have probably said, no, bro, like, chill. Like, we'll figure it out. We're going to fight this battle the right way. And yet God's purpose is greater than man's plan, because Haman leads in disobedience, and yet somehow God orchestrates that Mordecai's life is going to be spared. It shouldn't have been. Haman had every right to go ahead and just take him out. He was the bad apple, right? He was the one who wasn't doing what he was told to do. Could have just taken him out right then and there. And yet, Haman's life is spared. I'm sorry, I keep getting it wrong. Mordecai's life is spared. You guys are with me. King Xerxes, King Ahasuerus. Got it wrong. King Xerxes. King Xerxes does it this way, man. King Xerxes, he doesn't have a plan. How many of us can identify with this one? He doesn't have a plan. He goes into this world, he goes into his planning, he goes into figuring out what he's going to do with his life as like, I'll kind of just go with the flow. Matter of fact, I'm going to just kind of be asleep at the wheel. I'm going to kind of be drunk at the wheel. Right? King Xerxes, man, he was either napping or drinking or giving someone his signet ring that shouldn't have had it. He's indifferent. He's indifferent. He doesn't stand for anything. And his indifference leads him to not have a plan. And when we don't have a plan, here is the danger. The danger is that the world is going to give you your plan. The world is going to tell you, hey, you can do this, this, and this. You can go out drinking every night. You can go out and live how you wanted to live on Monday through Saturday. Hey, you can demand this, this, and this at your job. And you're like, well, I guess I can because I don't really stand for anything. And so this is what happens to King Xerxes. He's asleep and Haman comes up to him and goes, hey man, these Jewish people, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And here I got $10,000 for you. Can we do it my way? How does that relate to our life? Man, the world comes to us and goes, hey, I got all these good things for you if you come and do it the way that I'm telling you to. I got this big bribe for you if you kind of just assimilate to our culture. And so that's exactly what King Xerxes does. Because he doesn't have any true plans. Okay. And when you don't have a plan, this is kind of the solution. Just go with the plan of God. Right? Go with the plan of God, the one whose purpose is greater for you. The one who writes the plans into history. The one who we've already said his timing is perfect and much, much better than ours. And so it's okay if we go in, if we don't have a plan because God writes the plan for us. And we draw near to him. And we submit to his will. And we submit to his purpose. And we say, God, you're going to have to guide me through this because I don't really know what to do. And the world is telling me to do it this way. And this person's telling me to do it this way. But we can stay on the straight and narrow because God leads when we submit to him. Like King Xerxes, we too have been bought with a price. King Xerxes' price was 3 years' wages, is what Haman promises to King Xerxes. And King Xerxes should have had a little bit of wisdom. He knew Haman wasn't good for 3 years' wages. Just like we should know that the world is not good for the promise that they give to us. Right? He should have known. And yet, he's swayed by a bribe, and we too are bought with a price. The only difference is that the price that has been paid for our lives is the blood of the Lamb, Jesus Christ. And so you need to let the world know that you are not for sale because you've been purchased, because you've already been purchased. All right. So we see how pride, how disobedience, how indifference can lead to us not having plans, to our plans not being in line with God's purpose for our lives. And our purpose is that we are to be united with God for all eternity. And so God meets us with grace. He meets us and unites us to him. And it is only possible through the saving work of Jesus on the cross. He bore the weight of all our bad plans so that we can submit ourselves fully to him, turning away from plans that we always see fail to a purpose that is unfailing that we get from God our Father. Jesus puts it this way when he calls people to him. He says, "Follow me. Follow me." We need not follow him after all our ducks are in a row. We need not follow him once all of our plans have checked all of the boxes. We just drop everything and follow him. And if you are in the room and you are weary of making your own plans, if you're weary of fighting against the will of God, if you are weary of wandering aimlessly through this life with no plans, seek God's purpose. And if it's you that I'm speaking to this morning, I encourage you to give your life to Jesus Christ. We're going to respond in worship, and as we do that, we'll have prayer ushers in the front, and they would love to walk you through that. We would love to walk through that together. And giving your life to Jesus so that you no longer have to plan, but you can submit to his purpose. Also, while we're responding, man, take an opportunity to be signed up to be baptized. We've got an October 20th baptism service, and you need to give your life to Jesus. That would be a great time to do it. Again, saying yes to God's purpose for your life and making a public declaration of that faith that it takes to turn away from yourself and turn towards God. So we're going to respond in a variety of ways through song, through prayer, through giving of our financial resources, all of these different ways. And this morning, if you need a plan for your life, God, his purpose will fill all those plans. So I'm going to close in prayer, and then we'll get into worship. Father, we come to you full of faith, but not without doubt. We fall to our knees and wrestle with you. We believe in your promises and your purpose for our lives, but our pride, our disobedience, our stubbornness, our apathy, our indifference gets in the way time and time again. So we ask you this morning, God of the universe, and God of our hearts, to walk with us as we lay those burdens down at the cross. We don't want to live in the bondage of this world any longer, but Lord, we want to walk in freedom with you, our Master, by our side. Deliver us from the plans we have that run in direct opposition to the purpose you have for our lives. Give us eyes to see the beauty of your purpose. Reconcile our hearts to yours as we learn to trust you more. Your ways are good, like Paul writes in Romans. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Lord, renew our calling this morning. Let your love and mercy fall fresh upon us. We give you all praise and glory. And it's in the precious name of Jesus, our rock and our Redeemer, that we pray together. And all God's people said, amen.